Today on CityCast Denver. Do not listen to this episode on an empty stomach.
And that molten cheese, and then it just goos up with the green chili. Wash it down with a beer. You cannot beat it.
We're talking about the precarious future of Denver's unique style of Mexican food with two of its biggest fans, who just so happen to be old friends.
Patty, they appall everyone in the United States who's ever had a chile relleno. They're like, wait, what do you mean there's a wonton wrapper around a chili?
Today is Friday, April 9th, 2021. I'm Bree Davies, and this is CityCast Denver. Hey, would you look at that? There's some news. Today, temps drop back in the high 50s with partly cloudy skies. But also, check your weather app. Things could change. Government researchers are warning that drought conditions in Colorado could get worse this year. That means a higher likelihood of more forest fires. After last year's record-setting numbers, the governor says they are looking at a more proactive year-round approach to wildfire prevention. My newsfeed was ecstatic yesterday over the news that they're finally changing the signs at what was once known as Columbus Park. But the new La Raza Park signs weren't around for long. The city says they're waiting to put them back until the community is able to gather for a celebration. But no worries, Northsiders. La Raza Park will always be. In big bird news, one of the bald eagle eggs laid 7 weeks ago at Stanley Lake has hatched. The mama eagle, who birdwatchers have been calling Jolene after apparently stealing another bald eagle's mate, has another eaglet on the way. Give the birds our best.
Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man.
For a brief moment in the mid-2000s, I found myself living in New York City. New York has just about everything you could ever want, minus privacy and affordable space. Oh, and Mexican food. Or as I quickly learned, the city was just missing what I know to be Mexican food. Ever since I moved back home, my New York friends will come and visit. And when they say they want to do something Denver-y, I take them out for Mexican food. Denver-style Mexican food. And without fail, it blows their minds. They're like, what is this?
And what I would tell folks is like, don't be ashamed that no one else in the United States eats like you. Be proud that you're part of this diaspora of regional Mexican styles.
El Pueblo History Museum recently invited Gustavo Arellano to give a talk on Colorado-style Mexican food. My editor at Westward, Patty Calhoun, was mixing it up in the chat, so I thought, what a better way to talk about one of my favorite things about the city than to get them together. If you're not familiar already, Gustavo is the author of Taco USA, How Mexican Food Conquered America, which makes him the authority on regional Mexican-American cuisine. And Patty, she's the biggest Den-Mex fan I know. She's also co-founder and editor of Westward, where she ran Gustavo's Ask a Mexican column until he stopped writing it. So we're talking about Denver Mexican food, and recently I put out a call on Twitter asking folks what their favorite Denver-style Mexican place was, and I realized by the answers I got that there's a lot of confusion around what Denver Mexican food is, not just Mexican food in Denver. And so, Gustavo, I probably would start with you. How can we define what Den-Mex is?
You define it first and foremost by its base on chili. And folks in Denver, of course, know what chili is, but I do have to explain it to the rest of the United States. It's not chile con carne or chili with an I. It's not chile, just the pepper itself, but it's really going to be this sort of great, like based on the green chili of New Mexico and also Pueblo, but turned into a gravy of sorts that then becomes a basis for combo platters, a basis to smother on your burritos, a basis to smother on your tamales. That's where Den-Mex comes from. That's what also ties it to its its older parents or older uncles or aunts, if you will, New Mexican style cuisine. But from there, I think the way you're going to define Den-Mex cuisine is going to be on the dishes, the unique dishes that are ostensibly Mexican, but really unique just to Colorado.
Yeah. Yeah, like the crispy wonton wrapped relleno, which until I watched your talk, had no idea that was not how rellenos were made.
And this is the thing, and this is one of the things that I found out in my book, and that I love to expose to folks. Wherever you grow up in the United States, you're going to have your style of Mexican food.
Right.
And you're also going to think that your style of Mexican food is a style of Mexican food that everyone in the world eats. And it's not just an American thing. And what I would tell folks is like, don't be ashamed that no one else in the United States eats like you. Be proud that you're part of this diaspora of regional Mexican style.
And so, Patty, when we talk about Denver Mexican food in the city itself, what restaurants are we talking about?
Well, one of the classics, which Gustavo has been to, is La Fiesta, which started in the 60s in an old Safeway in what was then a not great part of town. And they invented, as far as I can tell, the wonton-wrapped chili relleno that is such a shock to people who find it. But they also smother it in this incredibly hot green chili. Very hot right now, was just there yesterday. And you love it that a family has owned it for more than 50 years, this converted Safeway that's been a nightclub, but that the Supreme Court goes there, cops go there, everyone goes to La Fiesta.
Yeah, so La Fiesta is really the pinnacle to you of Denver cuisine.
I would say that and Chubby's right now for Den-Mex.
Yeah, and Gustavo, you wrote about that. I believe you gave Chubby's Mexican hamburger the best Mexican entree in the country?
Yeah, oh yeah, 1,000%. Because to me, it tells you the story of Mexican food in the United States. A food of working class folks, a food of history, a food of also transformation. Everything else, Mexico changes. So and of course the story of Mexican food is also the story of the people who make it. So the Cordova family, specifically Stella Cordova, the matriarch of this brawling family of folks with all these, the original Chubby and then just, all the fake Chubbies. And then also, the story of success, because, when Patty first took me to Chubby's, they were giving you the food on plastic plates that you would staple around so the chili wouldn't spill over. And it was a small little spot right next to this Italian market. Now it's its own complex in a gentrifying neighborhood. And on top of all that, the Mexican hamburger, my God, it is an amazing dish that it takes the smothered burrito concept of New Mexico and just puts it to that next level, to use really cliched language.
And one of the fun things about it is it wasn't invented at Chubby's, even though Chubby's started out as a hamburger drive-in.
Really?
And then Stella took it over when she'd been a waitress there. But it started out at Joe's Buffet on Santa Fe Drive. And it's just legendary. Some waitress invented it once in the late 60s, and Joe's is gone, but the legend lives on.
And speaking of that legend, Patty, and Gustavo mentioned this sort of complex that Chubby's inhabits now, that in a very quickly in the process of gentrification neighborhood. Why do you think Chubby's sustains in that location?
I would assume that I would hope that they own the property, so that always helps out. Patty would know more than me on that part, but it's just great food. But this is what I've been trying to tell people about Den-Mex is like the people who live there, they know what the food is. They'll go there. The danger is that Denver has grown so much. I've been going to Denver now, before the pandemic, I would somehow pop in there at least once a year. So I've seen it as an outsider, I've seen it change dramatically in the past 15 years. And if you have all these outsiders and they don't know what the hell Den-Mex food is, they're not going to like it. And so that's why I would say that Den-Mex food is more endangered, I would argue, than most of the other regional Mexican cuisines in the United States.
Well, and one of the interesting things is these families that started these restaurants early on tried to buy property if they could. So the Herrera family that owns La Fiesta, they bought that Safeway property. And the father, who passed away just last year, went on to buy a lot of other property in the neighborhood. I believe Chubby's, that the Herrera family owns that property too. And early on, you just start saving your pennies and putting it towards property that maybe wasn't that valuable at the time. Also, Rosalinda's, which we miss, which closed a few years ago. But that family also saved their money, bought that incredibly valuable property, which they still own on 33rd in the Lohi neighborhood. So that's one of the reasons they're able to control their destiny a little more than many other restaurants.
So, Gustavo, you've written about this thing called the Chili Highway. Can you explain what it is and how Den-Mex fits in?
So Den-Mex cuisine originates from New Mexico. And New Mexican cuisine, of course, is this beautiful foodways that combine Spanish traditions, Mexican traditions, and native traditions. Again, the primacy of the meal, the primacy of the meals is going to be on the chili, on the green chili or the red chili, the hatch chili, or all sorts of, different debates about which one's better or whatnot.
Right.
But, so New Mexico style cuisine has been around since really the late 1500s with Oñate, the conquistadors, and all that. That starts to change as the manitos, the hispanos of New Mexico, northern New Mexico, start spilling into Colorado. So we're talking about the 1810s, going into Pueblo first, eventually going up to Denver, and having this very unique culture, this very, a unique style of Mexican Americans that isn't really the only real migration at the time is coming from northern Mexico, going through El Paso, Chihuahua, Coahuila, coming up and adding on to those traditions. So Den-Mex cuisine then really starts solidifying, if you will, starting in the 50s, starting in the 60s. People also forget restaurants were not really that common, although Denver, I think, was different because it was like, such a crazy, awesome town. But that's those cuisines, like the chili wonton burrito and the Mexican hamburger and all that starts slowly developing. But it owes its legacy or its DNA to New Mexico.
And going back to La Fiesta, Patty, I know you have an entree on the menu. How did that happen?
I believe it was just intense patronage of the place, but it was really funny. I didn't even realize it was coming on until one day I looked, and then I was at a party one night, and a man came up to me and said, "You're number 7, and I'm only number 8." And I had no idea what he was talking about, but he was number 8. He turns out to be the Lawson special on the La Fiesta menu.
And can you tell us what your dish is?
I don't order it as much as I used to because I'm getting more creative, but it is the chili relleno, one, smothered in green, a chicken enchilada smothered in green, rice and beans, and although it's not officially part of it, a couple beers on the side.
Makes it a little bit better.
Yeah. They need come on. A Calhoun special is not a Calhoun special without some beer. That's ridiculous. It's not part of it. Just add it on.
Do they have Corona there, Patty?
Oh, do they? That place has been my home away from home during the pandemic. Number one, very easy to socially distance. I saw you there, Brie. And two, you can just go sit there, feel like you're part of the family, feel like you're actually in a city that exists during this strange being on hold time.
So to maybe wrap this up, I would love to hear from both of you. I know what could be considered the best representation of Denver Mexican food, but what is your personal favorite item or entree that represents Denver Mexican food?
I have to say, right now it's also tough because it's hard to tell who's going to be coming out of this, how and what food will be there. But certainly, as I said, through this pandemic, La Fiesta's green chili smothering one of those chili rellenos, which are they would just so appall everyone in New Mexico. You can't help but love that. It is a celebration of the Denver version.
Patty, they appall everyone in the United States who's ever had a chile relleno. They're like, wait, what do you mean there's a wonton wrapper around a chili?
Right, and that molten cheese, and then it just goos up with the green chili, wash it down with a beer. You cannot beat it.
Yeah, I as much as I love Chubby's, and I think as a singularity, still the Mexican hamburger is the best Mexican dish in the United States. I will always stand by that. But you're talking about representation. And so I have to go. You have to have your lunchtime special at La Fiesta or even Friday night dinner. And you get one of those combo plates. And you're going to have to get as much green chili as possible. You're going to have to get the wonton chile relleno, just one. You get your smothered burrito as well because you need that smothered burrito as well. I like enchiladas as well. So you put that enchilada there on the side as well. All you would need, geez, and I would probably then get it with a side of carne adobada because carne adobada, even though it's a New Mexico thing, it still spreads up to Colorado as well. So there you go. You have your Den-Mex cuisine all on this wonderful combo platter. in this amazing restaurant, which, by the way, I think the mascot, if you will, of Den-Mex cuisine is that old school poster with the Christmas lights around that with
Yes.
that beautiful
The
woman.
beautiful woman.
Oh man, it's like it's not really politically correct nowadays, but who the hell cares when you see beauty like that? That to me is a representation of that, and it's history.
And here's my advice next snowstorm. Be sure you pick up a pint to go of green chili from La Fiesta, which I did on Friday. If you can't eat it all, it'll melt the snow.
And you could use it on everything. Eggs, tortillas, whatever you want.
It's the manna of Colorado. It really is, and it's absolutely amazing.
Well, thank you both so much. This is such a great conversation. I had my wedding reception at La Fiesta.
Whoa,
'Cause I
that's
loved-
freaking
it
old
was-
school right there.
It was great. They opened their restaurant for the first time in 20 years on a Saturday night just for us. So much love to La Fiesta. That's all for the week here on CityCast Denver. Our producers are Paul Caroli and Alexandra McMahon. Peyton Garcia writes our morning newsletter. Our music is by Los Mocochetes, with additional mixing by Tyler Lindgren. If you haven't already, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell a friend about us next time you see them. You can sign up for our daily newsletter and learn more about us at citycast.fm/Denver. Hey! Hey, would you look at that? There's some news.